I have a clip here about the P. Diddy trial and Cassie Ventur going in here to testify. Let's get into the video.
Prosecutors have finished their questioning of Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventur in the hip-hop mogul sex trafficking and racketeering trial in New York City. We want to warn viewers that some may find the details in this report disturbing. The singer says she felt, quote, trapped during one incident she described on the stand. Ventura claims that Combs allegedly threatened to blackmail her with videos from the so-called freak-offs after he found out that she was dating rapper Kid Cudi during a break from their 10-year relationship in 2011. The 38-year-old singer also addressed the physical abuse she claims she sustained, including incidents that left her with bruises and a permanent eyebrow scar. Ventura also described an alleged violent encounter with Combs that occurred at the late singer Prince's house. The defense will begin its cross-examination of Ventura on Thursday. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he faces up to life in prison.
There are people saying that Cassie should have got out of that situation. But if you look at it from another point of view, it was even grown men scared to come out against Puff Daddy. So why do you think that this lady was supposed to get away from Puffy if these fucking grown men couldn't?
And we did hear testimony about that incident that many people have seen now, the 2016 hotel altercation that took place at the Intercontinental in Los Angeles. Cassie says after that, she told Combs, quote, please stay far away from me. Last half of her testimony Wednesday focused on how she handled the alleged abuse. What do you want to tell us?
So as far as how we even got here, we really learned that last like 5 minutes or so where she describes 2023 being a time where she went to rehab. She said this was after an incident where she said, I didn't want to be alive. This is her words. I didn't want to be alive at this point. She was shooting a music video and she said she thought back to what she said she experienced. And she had these flashbacks. She says, I remember coming home to my children and my husband and looking at my husband and saying, you can do this without me. She describes walking into traffic. She then says through the rehab, she started writing. And when she was finished with all of the writing, she had a book. Because she had this book, she said, you know what? I wanted to share it with Sean Combs. I wanted him to, quote, understand what he put me through. She said in court, I was 22. I would have done anything for him. I did, but it just seemed like it wasn't enough. So she reached out to the chief of staff of Sean Combs, according to Ventura. And that chief of staff told her that Combs was not taking this book seriously.
If he was with her since 22 and she was married, he was actually grooming that young lady to put her in that type of position. Allegedly, he was flying 13 to 15 men in these freak-offs. So he had to be grooming this young lady so he can introduce her to that type of lifestyle that he wanted for her.
She then said that she was offering the rights to her story for $30 million. She said, quote, I didn't do research. I just picked a number I thought would alert him. And then, as many of us now know, November 2023 comes, this lawsuit that had many people going, oh, my gosh, wait, what is going on here? And so many details were put out in that civil suit. It was settled within 24 hours. We learned today in court, the prosecution said, and how much was that settlement for? She said $20 million. And then the prosecutor asked her, why are you testifying at this trial? She said, quote, I can't carry this anymore. The shame, the guilt, the pain, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong.
I really do feel for her. I think she was a victim. A lot of those other individuals that was in the story, like some of those men, I really don't believe. I think they know what was going on. You know, they just wanted a part of it. But her, I think she was being groomed, you know what I'm saying? And then you can be naive when you're that young. You don't really know what's going on around you because you're not paying attention. And he's a little bit older, so he's seasoned, so he can convince her to do a lot more things that he can a grown woman to.
With the rehab, she had said on the stand that she had become addicted to opioids to sort of disassociate from what she had experienced, right?
Yeah, specifically, she did say that she had an on and off again opiate addiction. So she didn't put all of the blame, I guess, if you will, on Sean Combs in terms of providing the drugs to her all the time, because she admitted that there were times where she would just, use drugs with her friends and Combs was not around. But that seems to be some of the source of the pain that she's talking about that she experienced during the course of that nearly 11-year relationship.
That's not going to exclude the charges, even though it does soften some of his drug charges. But they are already putting him like with this sex trafficking shit to where they're bridging the gaps to where he's flying people in. He's having sex with them. He's paying them. He's doing all this weird shit in the bedroom. And he's doing that from city to city, from state to state.
About an alleged criminal enterprise fueled by Combs' alleged sexual desires. What, if anything, did we learn that speaks to that?
Yeah, so RICO, racketeering influence of corrupt organization, has to do with someone leading a criminal enterprise and other people also being a part of that for whatever that criminal act is. In this case, it states in the indictment to pursue his sexual desires through fraud, coercion, and threatening someone. So kidnapping is sort of one of those. It falls in the element of that. And we heard that based on her testimony when she says in 2009, she got into a fight with Combs. Her mother actually said, I saw something on the internet about this. She knew, Combs was important in her life, even at that point. She said, is this you? And Ventur says no. She denied it.
It is kidnapping if a person wants to get away from you and she repeatedly keeps telling you she wants to get away from you and you keep hindering her from leaving. That's kidnapping.
But she said during that time she was forced to be in a hotel for about a week and she couldn't leave. She said, I wanted to go home. I told Sean I wanted to go home, as she refers to him in court. I told some of his handlers I wanted to go home, but they said I had to stay there. So you have that as a potential element that prosecutors will look at that when they probably do their closing argument. And then fraud, the prescription drug. She expressed that Combs knew a lot of or had a good relationship with doctors, and whether it was his name or her name or other employees that they would write the prescription for, because obviously it's a red flag if a doctor continues to write prescriptions for Percocet or oxycodone or whatever it is for the same person.
Let's see if they go after some of these doctors also, which I think they won't. But let's just see.
So that kind of was a hint to me to one of the elements, because we've heard about the abuse, but it really comes down to this crime. And we expect the defense will be questioning her about what they claim in the opening of their statements, that this was a toxic relationship. This was not criminal.
But also, is it part of the racketeering case that she testified to the fact that employees and people around him were complicit and aiding in this alleged behavior?
100%. I mean, she names a guy, D-Rock, who was with security, who cried, she said, when she was just beat up by Combs and he found her. She talks about a woman who brought her ice cream because she felt bad after a beating. So she's naming a number of people within his staff that she says she was familiar with that were sort of aiding and helping to keep things hush-hush, that others knew had to do more with the domestic violence, but knew that that was happening.
She gonna fuck around and bust this case wide open on Diddy ass. I don't know, man. He might be out of there. He gonna be looking at a lot of time. And they already starting to bridge the gaps together with all this shit and tie this shit together. The prostitution, the drugs, the guns, the videotapes. It doesn't look good for Puff Daddy. Well, anyway, tell me what you guys think. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys back here in another video.